One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special. One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount.
The Walt Disney Company absolutely panic over the last few weeks. They're mad at South Park because they're making fun of their woke ideologies, constantly race swapping or religion swapping everything in their movie.
Remember when the worst thing about a Disney remake was whether the CGI looked weird? Well, fasten your seatbelts, because the Snow White 2025 reboot didn't just spark controversy, it triggered a full-blown Hollywood meltdown. From canceled talk shows to legal threats, on-set drama, and even a brutal South Park takedown.
By a diverse woman!
Oh, not again.
Yeah, only this time, it wasn't just me. They were taking all my favorite people and replacing them with diverse women complaining about the patriarchy. Will you check under the bed and make sure there's no Disney executives under there?
I promise there's not.
I'm scared, Mom. Will you please just look at me?
This isn't just a movie. It's the cautionary tale of what happens when reboots go rogue, stars go viral, and satire turns scandal into spectacle. Let's unravel this twisted tale of PR nightmares and a princess who, according to the internet, might just be the most hated Snow White in history. Nothing says you messed up quite like getting roasted by South Park.
Last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway. And that's when I start to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
In late 2023, South Park dropped an episode titled Joining the Panderverse. And let's just say it didn't hold back. The special mercilessly mocked Disney's recent habit of reimagining its classic characters with diverse female leads who seem to actively resent the original stories. Sound familiar? A central character in the episode, a loud, self-righteous actress, was an obvious parody of Rachel Zegler. The cartoon version rants about toxic fans, mocks the source material, and lectures everyone about progress while being completely tone-deaf to the backlash around her. It was biting, brilliant, and brutal. What hit hardest wasn't just the humor, it was the truth underneath it. South Park struck a cultural nerve. Viewers across the spectrum, left, right, casual moviegoers, and hardcore fans, suddenly found themselves saying, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. For Disney, this was devastating. When a show as culturally relevant as South Park turns you into a punchline, the damage to your brand isn't just momentary, it lingers. It becomes the meme, the reference point.
Does this mean that it's no longer 1937 and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince?
The shorthand for failure. And the worst part, they didn't even need to exaggerate. The parody worked because it was based on real interviews, real quotes, and real fan frustrations. Which brings us to, you know the saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Well, Rachel Zegler might have missed that memo. In a resurfaced 2022 interview that went viral in 2023, Zegler, cast as the new Snow White, made comments that lit the internet on fire. When asked about the original film, she said, I just mean that it's no longer 19. She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. Okay, that's a modern take. But then she added more fuel. The prince was weird. I watched the original once and never again. I didn't like it. Fans were stunned. To many, this didn't sound like a bold reimagining. It sounded like she was mocking the classic. Critics accused her of disrespecting the source material and alienating the fans she was supposed to inspire. The role of Snow White isn't just another gig. It's a legacy. And when you say you don't even like that legacy, people take it personally. Social media exploded. Memes mocked her. Hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite trended. And soon, the narrative shifted. This wasn't about casting. It was about character and Zegler's apparent lack of gratitude. So how did we get here? Let's rewind to the beginning, when Disney first announced its plans to remake the 1937 animated classic. This wasn't a surprise. Disney had been on a live-action reboot spree for years. Cinderella, Aladdin, The Lion King. Some hits, some misses, but all built on a familiar formula. Nostalgia meets CGI. But Snow White was different. It was the first ever Disney animated feature, the one that started it all. So when Disney said they were updating it for modern audiences, fans were already nervous. Then came the casting of Rachel Zegler, a talented young Latina actress from West Side Story. Disney said this was part of its commitment to inclusivity, and many applauded the choice. But the changes didn't stop there. The Seven Dwarfs, gone, replaced by a diverse group of magical creatures. The prince, downplayed. The romantic storyline, scrapped. Disney pitched this as a feminist reimagining, but to longtime fans, it felt more like Disney was embarrassed by its own past. Suddenly, the magical forest of Snow White was looking more like a politically charged battleground. If there's one thing the internet hates, it's when nostalgia meets what they call corporate wokeness. Channels like Geeks, plus Gamers, and The Quartering jumped on the story, calling out Disney for pandering and pushing a message instead of telling a story. Fans started posting side-by-side comparisons of the original Snow White and the leaked set photos of the new one, mocking how unmagical everything looked. One viral tweet read, "They replaced 7 iconic dwarfs with 7 random interns from HR." Another joked, "Can't wait for Sleeping Beauty to wake up and cancel Prince Philip for kissing her." It wasn't just mockery. It was anger. Many saw this remake as part of a bigger trend, where classic characters were being rewritten not to tell better stories, but to preach modern values. Fans who once adored Disney began to feel like the studio didn't respect them anymore. And Rachel Zegler became the symbol of everything they believed had gone wrong. Behind the scenes at Disney, the mood had shifted from confident to chaotic. As the backlash intensified, fueled by meme culture, viral outrage, and that brutal South Park takedown, executives found themselves scrambling for solutions. Internally, alarm bells were ringing. This wasn't just another social media hiccup. This was a full-blown PR wildfire. Marketing efforts for Snow White all but vanished overnight. Scheduled promotional events were quietly canceled. Behind closed doors, insiders reported a frenzy of emergency meetings. Disney reportedly put the film under review, triggering expensive reshoots and even discussions of major character and script overhauls. Leaks suggested the studio was considering scaling back Rachel Zegler's presence in the film and rethinking the magical creatures concept entirely, an attempt to win back fans without publicly admitting fault. But the most telling sign of corporate panic? Rachel Zegler's near-total erasure from Disney's digital platforms. Mentions of her mysteriously vanished from press kits and websites. Her once prominent role in early promotional material was pushed to the background, and eagle-eyed fans noticed she was no longer tagged or acknowledged in official Disney posts. It was as if the studio had entered ghost mode, trying to disappear its own leading lady. And while this might seem like savvy PR cleanup, it only deepened the divide. For some, it looked like cowardice. For others, it was too little, too late. Critics pointed out that Disney's silence was deafening. There were no statements, no clarifications, no apologies, just a quiet retreat. But here's the problem with damage control in the digital age. The internet never forgets. The interviews, the memes, the parodies, they were already archived, dissected, and immortalized across Reddit threads, YouTube rants, and TikTok stitches. Disney had lost control of the narrative, and worse, it didn't seem to know how to get it back. At this point, Snow White 2025 had become something far bigger than a movie. It was a cultural symbol, a lightning rod in the ongoing war between woke corporate storytelling and the fans who feel like their childhoods are being rewritten for profit. On one side, supporters of the film praised Disney's commitment to modern values, empowering women, diverse casting, and ditching outdated tropes. For them, Snow White's transformation from a soft-spoken damsel into a strong, independent leader was a long overdue evolution. And Rachel Zegler? She was a voice for a new generation of women who didn't wait for a prince to save them. But on the other side, fans and critics argued that the soul of the original story had been gutted in the process. They saw the changes not as progress, but as performative pandering. Why remake a beloved tale if you're going to mock its heart? Why cast someone who publicly admits she never liked the story to begin with? The whole controversy became a case study in how corporate activism can backfire when it lacks sincerity. To many, this wasn't about inclusion. It was about ideology being forced into a space that was once about imagination and escapism. And that's what truly stung. People go to Disney for magic, not moral lectures. The South Park episode had already laid it bare, satirizing Disney's reliance on strong female character archetypes who all sounded the same, smug, condescending, and disconnected from the fantasy worlds they were supposed to inhabit. That parody, painful as it was, captured what millions were feeling: that Disney was treating beloved stories like soulless branding tools, and audiences were starting to rebel. In the end, Snow White 2025 became the front line of a much larger debate about identity, art, legacy, and who gets to define progress. It's no longer just about dwarfs and poisoned apples. It's about what happens when a fairy tale becomes a battlefield. So what's the moral of this modern fairy tale? Maybe it's this: when you remake a classic, you better love it. You better respect the people who grew up with it. Because nostalgia isn't just money in the bank, it's emotional currency. And if you spend it recklessly, the audience will turn on you. Snow White 2025 was supposed to be Disney's crown jewel, but right now it looks more like a cautionary tale. Let us know in the comments. Did Disney go too far? Was the backlash justified? Or is this just another overblown internet storm? If you loved this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because in the land of Hollywood, there's always another plot twist around the corner. And remember, not every remake needs a reboot. Sometimes the magic is in the original.